Get connected. We're always on 24/7 worldwide. iPower One. Breaking news, Paul Manafort found guilty on 8 counts, mistrial declared on 10 other counts. We'll have reaction down in Washington, D.C., courtesy of CBS News. Plus, we're going to have stories for you on what's happening in the boroughs of New York City. And we'll have your latest local forecasts all coming up. See you in 60 seconds.
This is your brain. This is drugs. This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?
Yeah, I have questions.
Prescription drugs aren't as bad as street drugs, right?
Weed's legal, isn't it?
Drinking is worse than smoking weed.
Isn't it? Why
is heroin so addictive?
Molly just makes you feel happy.
I have questions.
Mom?
Dad, did you ever try drugs?
They're going to ask. Be ready. Go to drugfree.org. A message from Partnership for Drug-Free Kids.
From the Hard Planet Media Studios in New York, this is iPower 2, Hot Off the Wire.
We begin with major developments in cases against 2 of President Donald Trump's former allies, attorney Michael Cohen and former campaign chairman Paul Manafort. Today, the jury found Manafort guilty of 8 of the 18 counts in his trial, including 5 counts of tax fraud, 2 counts of bank fraud, and 1 count of failing to disclose a foreign bank account. A mistrial was declared for the 10 remaining counts after jurors were unable to reach a consensus on each of those. Meanwhile, the president's former longtime fixer, Michael Cohen, has reached a plea deal with federal prosecutors. Cohen appeared before a judge in federal court Tuesday, where he pled guilty to 8 charges, including tax fraud and campaign finance violations. We have team coverage. CBS News Washington correspondent Paula Reed is in Alexandria, Virginia, following the Manafort trial, and CBS News Chief White House correspondent Major Garrett is at the White House. Paula, let me begin with you. The jury has reached a verdict on 8 counts in the Manafort trial. What are the details on this?
Well, they found him guilty on all 5 counts of tax evasion, so improperly disclosing money that he received from his lobbying work on behalf of a pro-Russia Ukrainian politician. But what's interesting is there was a mixed verdict on other charges. For example, there was only 1 year where they convicted him for failing to disclose the 31 foreign bank accounts he allegedly had. And there were also charges related to loans that he allegedly applied for when his income dried up and he needed more money. Special counsel prosecutors allege that he applied for loans but lied about his income and lied about his assets. And the jury found him guilty on 2 of those. But there were many counts, 10 in fact, that they just could not reach a consensus on. This is a partial verdict. This is a mixed outcome, both for Mr. Manafort and for special counsel Robert Mueller. But it is especially significant because these are the first convictions secured by the special counsel's office in their ongoing investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 campaign.
So what does that mean, Paula, the judge declaring a mistrial on the other 10 counts? What does that mean for the prosecution?
Well, they'll have to decide whether or not they want to retry him on those 10 counts. Mr. Manafort faces another prosecution in September from special counsel prosecutors. That case will focus more on the kind of work he was doing for a pro-Russian Ukrainian politician and how he failed to disclose that to the Justice Department. This case was more focused on his personal finances, failing to disclose income on his tax return, and how he was trying to allegedly bolster his income through these loans that he fraudulently obtained. But the next case will have more of a nexus to Russia. Well, the judge has said that the special counsel needs to come back by August 29th to decide whether or not they will retry him on those other counts. Elaine, I think it's likely prosecutors will ask for more time. I think they're going to want to see what happens in September in that other case before they decide whether or not they want to pursue all the resources to try this case again.
Major, let me ask you, has there been, first of all, any reaction there to the Manafort news? Any reaction at all? And also, is this a victory for the special counsel?
Well, no reaction from the White House. I've reached out to many White House sources. They're more focused on the Michael Cohen matter, which I know we'll get to in just a moment. But no reaction on Paul Manafort. What we can say is what the president has said publicly via Twitter and other means, that he believes that Manafort has been treated very badly by the special counsel, thinks he's a good person, and that he didn't work for the campaign all that long, and that none of this really has anything to do with his brief tenure within the Trump campaign. Well, let's take that last assertion from the White House, that Paul Manafort's tenure was brief. Well, that is true in one sense, that it was a few months, but those were deeply significant months for the trajectory of the Trump campaign. They essentially run from the time of him getting near the end of the primary and caucus calendar, and then the very hard, deliberative, and vital work that Paul Manafort, as campaign general chairman, oversaw to lock down all the necessary delegate commitments to produce the nomination for Donald Trump. That work was absolutely central to the course of the Trump campaign, because no one else in the Trump orbit had any kind of experience at delegate counting, securing delegates, and then building a team around each state delegation to make sure they didn't wander off or go to Ted Cruz or John Kasich or somebody else, to keep that momentum for the Trump campaign leading up to that convention in Cleveland going. Paul Manafort did that. So yes, in duration, you might say it was a short period of time, but in importance, it was as important as any 3 or 4 months in the entire Trump campaign. And Paul Manafort not only was involved, he supervised all of it. And I can tell you he remained involved in the Trump campaign as the general election continued, not formally, informally, but he was a significant voice. So Paul Manafort was all around this, welcomed into the Trump family. There are plenty of sound bites of the president extolling the work and vision and commitment and capability of Paul Manafort. And so to act as if he was just an incidental sort of low-level person, not true at all. It is true that these crimes that a jury has now convicted Paul Manafort of did occur long before that association with the Trump campaign. But they do raise questions about Manafort's truthfulness, his veracity, his overall character, and that of another significant figure within the Trump campaign, Rick Gates, who was a key witness in the Manafort trial, admitting to many misdeeds. And Rick Gates stayed on throughout the general election and was a significant fundraiser and key player in the president's inauguration committee. So Rick Gates is also someone, though not charged, is also implicated with wrongdoing and was a significant player in the Trump orbit. So if at no other level, just the atmospherics of people like this, so closely associated with the Trump campaign and having their reputations, in Rick Gates's case, sullied professionally, and in Paul Manafort's case, now criminally convicted, it casts a pall, to say the least.
Now to a murder mystery in Hell's Kitchen. A man beaten and stabbed and left to die in the street. Police have been on that scene all day gathering evidence. One of the biggest pieces of the puzzle is trying to identify the victim. News 4's Erica Byfield is live on the scene. Erica, what'd you find out?
So Natalie, I have to tell you this, will police keep coming back to the scene? As you mentioned, I have to say this again. We saw a detective within the last 2 or 3 minutes get back into his car. Each time we see these police out here, what they're doing is they're walking up and down the street here behind us, peering over fences, looking for something. At this point, they're not willing to say what they think someone left behind. It was exactly 2:46 in the morning when a taxi driver's headlights come into view on 46th Street. Suddenly, the driver stops. There is something in the middle of the road, a man beaten up and stabbed. A witness told News 4 right before that she heard yelling.
I knew something happened really bad because of the way he was screaming. I was like, sad, though. It really is.
Margaret Weinhardt didn't leave her apartment. If she had, she would have seen an ambulance backing down the street. Then crews working on a badly wounded man. They rushed him to the hospital where he later died.
It's not right to finding dead people in the middle of the street. Something is wrong in this area. I don't know what, but something is wrong.
Police spent the morning trying to piece together what exactly happened. We noticed detectives paying special attention to a couple of shoes they found in the middle of the block. For now, we don't know who they belong to. Police sources tell us that the man who died didn't have any sort of identification on him. The hope is that surveillance will help them identify him and the attacker.
There's cameras all over, so I'm just hoping that they catch some.
It was mid-afternoon when detectives and beat cops returned. They worked the street and then minutes later did it again. People watching left to wonder what could make someone hurt someone else so badly.
You figure something has to be going on for someone to have that sort of reaction. And people don't just stab other people.
So a couple people who live here tell us that detectives stopped them early this morning and showed them a picture of the man who died. They all said that they did not recognize him, but again, they're hoping that some surveillance video around here actually captured the man's image so that police can identify him and, of course, the attacker. Reporting live in Hell's Kitchen, Erica Byfield, News 4.
Never seen this before. A couple of goats somehow got out of the tracks by the Fort Hamilton Parkway station on the N line. Took hours to round those goats up. News 4's Rana Novini joining us now with what happened, Rana?
Yeah, Stefan and Natalie, definitely not one you see every day. Those goats got down somehow onto these tracks in Borough Park. Emergency crews had to go down there. They had to shut off the power to the tracks so they can get there safely. The goats are okay, but now the big question is, where did they come from? You could call it an odd morning commute.
Sometimes we see cats and dogs, but never goats. There's a new one here.
Captain Jonathan Bobbin says he's never seen anything like it. 2 goats wandering on the subway tracks caused delays for about 2 hours along the N line. Crews down on the tracks near Fort Hamilton trying to corral them to safety.
They were nervous and kept running from our personnel, but we were able to get them and take them off the track safely.
Eventually, the NYPD's Emergency Services Unit tranquilized the 2 goats and got them off the tracks. They'll be taken to an animal shelter, but there's still a mystery. Police don't know where the goats came from. Yeah, still a big mystery tonight. Police still don't know where those goats came from. They do say that there are some meat markets in this area, so their theory right now is that the goats escaped from one of those meat markets. But right now, those goats were taken to an animal sanctuary in upstate New York. No one has stepped forward yet to claim those goats. Reporting live in Borough Park, Rana Novini, News 4.
You fight for something, you can try. And if you don't succeed, come on, you just try again.
And that's exactly what Shirley Farron and other community activists have been doing since 2009 to get a YMCA to the Northeast Bronx.
It's been a long struggle because things we remember, we forget, they're going to help, they don't help. And so it's been a long struggle.
And a struggle well worth it. On Monday, Mayor Bill de Blasio, Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie, other elected officials and community members broke ground on the first ever YMCA in the Northeast Bronx and Edenwald, something the community has wanted for more than 30 years.
It's fair to say you shouldn't have had to fight so long and hard for this day, because you were right all along to demand this opportunity for our young people, for our seniors, for everyone in the community.
The new Y will create jobs and have 2 pools, full-length basketball court, a gymnasium, and community spaces, and a great place to keep the neighborhood kids busy.
Instead of hanging out in the neighborhood, they can come there someplace positive for them to go to. So I think that it's a plus for the community.
This project is expected to be completed in 2020. In Edenwald, Aisha McKenzie, News 12 The Bronx.
Police tape surrounded Brazel's lounge on Saturday morning. An active crime scene filled 2 blocks of Allerton Avenue from Radcliffe to Colden. Bullet casings, personal belongings, even a vehicle left behind.
I don't like to happen nothing here close to me.
Neighbors shaken to hear of a multiple shooting and double stabbing right outside of their doors a little after 4 a.m.
I don't feel well when I wake up in the morning and walk and see all this stuff.
Despite their surprise, police say 4 people were shot. One of them, a woman, shot in the head in grave condition. 2 other men stabbed, one in the back, the other in the head, all in their 20s.
I've lived in this neighborhood for over 40 years, and this has been a good neighborhood, and all of a sudden it went downhill.
Police believe a fight spilled out of Bruxelles Lounge here on Allerton Avenue. An employee off camera told me no fight there happened last night, but that cops are looking at over 30 cameras in the building to determine what happened. Amy Rodriguez, News 12.
And police also looking for this man they say exposed himself on a subway train. This apparently happened August 5th on board a southbound 4 train as it approached the Mount Eden Avenue subway station. The suspect reportedly exposed and touched himself over his clothes in front of a 30-year-old woman.
Kelvin Avro enjoying a healthy breakfast provided by this homeless outreach facility. It's a long way from the car he was sleeping in just a few months ago.
By being here, I was able to regain lost time and actually rebuild my confidence to actually go out there and try to rebuild my life.
Avro, one of more than 100 people living at the East Flatbush Safe Haven, which helps homeless New Yorkers transition into permanent housing by offering services like housing guidance, support workshops, and medical and psychiatric care.
It made me more of an open person to actually try and reach out for people, and it was a great help.
It's a different approach than a traditional shelter. Safe havens reach out to homeless New Yorkers and offer them a place to stay.
It's hugely important for the outreach teams to have a resource like this, to be able to bring the folks that they're engaging with on the street who have been able to finally, after sometimes many months or even years, been able to build the trust.
It's how George Harding escaped the streets and alcohol abuse.
It helps me out with my medicine. Helps me figure out what I'm supposed to do with life.
The Safe Haven system, a critical part of the city's fight against homelessness.
Over the last 2 years, we've been able to bring 1,815 human beings in off the streets, and they've remained off the streets.
And Safe Haven keeps this photo wall showing the success stories of the 28 residents they've placed in permanent housing. Avro and Harding can't wait to join their ranks. In East Flatbush, Naomi Choi-Smith, News 12, Brooklyn.
Punch after punch. The scary moments caught on video of a 62-year-old MTA worker being attacked early Saturday morning after announcing a service change.
I'm shaking right here talking to you, just thinking about how many times this happened. How many times I get threatened when we're on a route.
Bus operator Felix Olivo tells me he was assaulted back in November. The man upset about a delay.
Pushed his way through and yanked on my shirt and tugged on ripped my badge and shirt off.
The New York City Transit and Transport Workers Union Local 100 presidents rallying with these workers on Tuesday, saying enough is enough.
We are not going to tolerate this depressing tsunami of assaults on our staff. Every day, pretty much, people are verbally assaulted, they're spat at, they are punched, they are threatened. And that is unacceptable.
That's why this poster of some of the individuals accused of recently attacking transit workers is going up all over the city to find those responsible. These local leaders are also pushing for increased police presence, and a body camera pilot program is in the works.
We're going to start off with the conductors, and we're going to spread it out throughout the system.
So that we can provide evidence where people are assaulted such that a prosecution will stick.
Olivo saying these initiatives are absolutely necessary.
A lot of my brothers and sisters, especially the women, are embarrassed by reporting a lot of stuff that's going on. And none of us want to be uncomfortable at work, so it's very frustrating.
And as for that conductor from Saturday morning's incident, we're told he is recovering and is back at work. In Manhattan, Emily Lorsch, News 12 Brooklyn.
Thanks, Emily. And anyone with information about Saturday's assault is asked to call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-577-TIPS. And for Spanish, call 1-888-57-PISTA.
A live look at Times Square down in New York City. We'll have the Cheddar Report up next, reporting from the New York Stock Exchange. We'll check your local traffic and weather here in the Big Apple. You're watching iPower 2, Hot Off the Wire News. Come on back.
Dad annoyed to find Squibb Park Bridge closed, forcing him to roll his stroller up and down a hill and across a main road to reach Brooklyn Bridge Park.
Definitely an inconvenience. Like, we thought it'd be much quicker, especially in the summer when it's hot. You don't want to put that extra walk in.
Squibb Bridge acts as a direct connector between Brooklyn Heights and the waterfront park, but Brooklyn Bridge Park temporarily closed the span back on July 16th after they discovered a piece of wood in poor condition, leaving Brooklyn Heights residents high and dry.
The only access points, if you don't cut through here, is all the way down at Atlantic Avenue or just a few blocks down here at Old Fulton Street, but that just adds 10 minutes, 15 minutes to the journey.
The park installed a preliminary stabilization measure on July 31st and says their engineers are now assessing the condition of the rest of the wood. But for some, this is just the latest frustrating chapter for the footbridge, which reopened in 2017 after a 3-year closure.
It's definitely been closed more than it's been open. Fix the bridge, make it stable.
Some tourists, though, taking it in stride.
It's hot. We're gonna get too tired, but what can we do? We'll do it. We'll walk around.
Now, the park says they're working closely to reopen the bridge as soon as possible and says they do appreciate everyone's patience and understanding. In Brooklyn Heights, Naomi Choi Smith, News 12, Brooklyn.
Hello, everyone. I'm Baker Machado. Here are some of the top stories from Cheddar on News 12. Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey says work is underway to fix the social media platform from misuse and misinformation. In a new interview with CNN, Dorsey says he is committed to improving conversational health on Twitter, and that includes auditing 10 million accounts a week for legitimacy. Twitter stock dropped earlier this month after the company reported a decline in user growth. Meanwhile, Pepsi is making moves to claim its stake in the carbonated water business. The soda giant plans to acquire SodaStream for $3.2 billion. Now, Pepsi says it's a way to reach customers in their homes instead of just in stores. It's the latest move in the beverage industry where customers are moving away from sugary drinks. And one college campus is getting a high-tech update before classes begin this year. St. Louis University says they're installing 2,300 Alexa-equipped Amazon Echoes in every single dorm room and campus apartment. Now, these will provide answers to 100 campus-specific questions like when does the library close and where is the registrar's office? And that's your Cheddar Business and Tech Update. I'm Baker Machado from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Idle hands. They say they're the devil's workshop. Easy targets. Quick to kill time. Give idle hands something to do, a place to go, a purpose, and they're capable of amazing things.
about, anywhere around Riverdale, Hunts Point, Astoria, Broadway Junction, or even Bay Ridge. We're looking at a partly to mostly cloudy sky. More clouds will be with us as we go through the late night and the overnight hours. And unfortunately, we're looking at another round of rain. It could be heavy at times. Might even have a few embedded thunderstorms. But for now, the radar's looking pretty quiet. The rain will be coming in from southwest to northeast, and that'll be associated with a warm front that'll be moving across the city. Dew points aren't terrible. We're looking at them at the slightly uncomfortable territory, but fortunately we're not looking at very warm temperatures, so it's a lot easier to deal with. After 10 o'clock tonight, that's when we'll start looking out for the wet weather. We'll see the overnight low temperatures a little warmer than they have been over the past 2 nights. Upper 60s to the low and middle 70s on southerly winds from 5 to 15 miles per hour. Showers and storms could drop some heavy rain. That'll be around the midnight hour. For Wednesday, scattered showers and storms possible during the morning. We're looking at a southwest to west winds 10 to 20. Daytime highs a bit higher. We'll see them anywhere from the mid 70s to around the middle 80s. Now, as we take a look across the northeast United States, most locations are showing temperatures that are cooler than average. We've got a storm system out towards the west. We'll say goodbye to the influence of high pressure that gave northern New England some nice clear skies. Not so for us, though. We'll continue to see the clouds, the wet weather pushing through as our warm front advances towards the northeast, followed by a cold front. Once the cold front passes through, that's where we're going to start to notice a drier weather pattern pushing through, taking very good care of us for the remainder of the week and probably through the upcoming weekend into early next week, as high pressure will be our dominant weather feature right on through the weekend. Temperatures on the rise as well. That's a look at your forecast.